Shein is an ordinary man living a life marked by hardship. On the day he turns 30, he recalls an old legend claiming that anyone who reaches that age without marrying gains the ability to use magic. When the clock strikes midnight, he attempts it once, then again, but nothing happens. Losing interest, he lies down to sleep. Soon after, a sharp pain grips his chest, forcing him to the ground. As the pain intensifies, he thinks that he does not want to die yet. In that moment, something unfamiliar occurs, and he is transferred to another world, beginning a new life with the mind of an adult man inside the body of a small child. Shein opens his eyes to see his mother stepping down from a carriage, presenting him to her daughter. She tells her to greet her little brother. Mary looks surprised, then leans in to welcome him with a kiss. Shein, however, remains unsettled by her appearance and the situation he finds himself in. 3 years pass. Mary and Shein have grown slightly and they race each other across the yard. Mary reaches the finish first and asks why he is so slow. Shein, short of breath, tells her that she runs too fast. She answers calmly that this is only natural since she is his older sister. That night, the family gathers for dinner. Shein tells his father that there is something he wants to ask. He asks whether monsters exist in this world. His father confirms that they do and warns him never to leave the house alone. He explains that monsters are dangerous, capable of killing humans, and that if Shein ever sees one, he must run and seek help from an adult. Shein then asks about fairies and spirits. His father says he knows nothing about spirits, but fairies do exist, though they are rare and difficult to encounter, except through merchants who hunt them. Shein then asks about magic. His father replies that it does not exist, at least not anything he has ever heard of. Shein suggests that perhaps his father simply does not know about it yet. His father agrees that there are many things he does not know, but adds that magic is not something commonly spoken of or witnessed. He then asks where Shein heard about fairies and magic. Shein gives no answer, and from that point on, he no longer brings up the subject of magic. 3 more years pass. Mary is training in combat in front of the house, while Shein sits nearby, reading and occasionally watching her movements. After some time, Mary grows tired and sits beside him. Shein asks why she trains so intensely. She explains that as his older sister, she must be prepared for any danger, whether monsters appear or criminals threaten them. She says she needs to be strong so she can protect him. At sunset, Mary goes to the lake to train with her friend Rose. Rose comments that Mary has been training all day and expresses surprise that she is not yet exhausted. At that moment, a strange light begins to rise from the surface of the lake. Mary stops and watches it, unsettled, and recalls the conversation Shein once had with their father about magic. The next day, Mary takes Shein with her to the lake. Shein reminds her that their mother said they should not go too far. Mary reassures him that the lake is nearby and that there are no monsters there. They sit and wait for sunset. Shein asks if their mother will be angry that they stayed out late. Mary admits she might be a little upset, but says it will be worth it. As the sun lowers, light emerges from the lake and glowing orbs rise into the air. Shein watches in silence. Mary tells him that these orbs appear shortly before sunset, though she does not know why. Shein asks whether their parents know about this. Mary explains that she brought them to the lake the first time she saw it, but they were unable to see anything. She admits she worried that Shein might not see it either. She adds that people seem to perceive it differently, with some seeing only a brief glow, while other children see the lights clearly. She quietly wonders if this phenomenon is magic. The following morning, the family sits together for breakfast. Shein and Mary finish quickly, drawing looks of surprise from their parents. Shein urges Mary to go, and the two head to the lake again, hoping to uncover the secret behind the lights. They spend time fishing, but Shein soon grows tired. Mary remarks that his condition is poor because he does not train as she does, and that his endurance has weakened. She then notes that sunset is still far off and asks whether they should do something else. He tells her that he wants to explore the lake and understand where the light orbs come from. Mary asks whether they do not simply emerge from the lake itself. He replies that they must originate from something living beneath the water, and that without a proper search they will never know what they truly are. Mary asks what they should do next. He explains that they will collect 3 different things from the lake into separate buckets: rocks in one, aquatic plants in another, and fish in the last. Then they will wait for sunset and observe which of them produces the orbs. They gather the items and place them into the buckets, then sit by the lake and continue fishing. After some time, Mary remarks that they have been there for a long while without catching anything. Shein laughs quietly and tells her how glad he is that she is helping him. She responds that of course she would help, since she is his older sister and should stay by his side. Shein thanks her for her help. She adds that she also wants to see magic, if it truly exists. Soon after, Mary finally catches a fish and places it into the 3rd bucket. Shein asks whether the fish is rare. She tells him that it is not and that it can be found almost everywhere. At that moment, Rose, Mary's friend, approaches and asks what they are doing, then notices Shein and asks if he is her little brother. Mary confirms it and tells Shein to greet her. He does so politely. Rose asks again what they are doing. Mary answers that they are fishing. Rose questions why they chose this particular lake. Mary reassures her, saying that Shein knows what he is doing. Rose looks surprised and asks Shein if he can see the glowing orbs, calling them a strange phenomenon. He replies that he can see them clearly and asks whether she knows anything about them. Rose answers that she does not, and that she only enjoys watching them. As sunset arrives, Rose sits fishing by the lake. Soon after, the glowing orbs appear. Mary tells Xian that none of the items in the buckets are glowing. He replies that he tried to recreate the environment, then asks whether there are other living things in the lake besides the fish. Mary answers that there are many. Rose adds that it would be difficult to gather everything living in the lake. Xian agrees, then removes his clothes and decides to enter the water to uncover the secret of the orbs. Mary immediately tells him to wait, warning that going down there is dangerous. He reassures her that he will be fine. She insists on going with him, and the two enter the lake together. They are struck by the beauty of the glowing orbs around them. Xian reaches out and touches one, telling Mary that it feels slightly warm and different. He submerges his head, trying to see what lies beneath the water, but finds nothing. Mary suggests that it might be because it is too dark. Xian replies that he has still learned something, explaining that the orbs come from something living underwater, possibly the fish, since the lights move through the water. Mary says she wishes they could see more clearly. They climb out of the lake and put their clothes back on. Xian thanks his sister for everything she did. She tells him there is no need, reminding him again that she is his older sister. At that moment, Rose calls out that she has caught another fish from the lake, explaining that this one is the female of the fish Mary caught earlier. They place the female fish into the bucket with the male. Almost immediately, glowing orbs begin to rise from the bucket. The three watch in silence, taken by their beauty. Xian says that he finally understands, explaining that this is a courtship behavior between the fish and that the glowing orbs are its result. The next day, Xian thanks his sister once more for helping him and hugs her. In that moment, his body begins to emit a faint light. Both of them freeze in surprise. Xian says that this might be magical energy, and that it is also a form of courtship behavior. He suggests that whenever he expresses his feelings, he may begin to glow. Mary becomes frightened and runs away. Xian remains where he is and concludes that magic does exist in this world, even if no one has yet discovered it, and that from this point, his story will truly begin. After some time, Xian sits alone on his bed and reflects. He thinks that during the last 3 years of his previous life, he lived in constant despair. He studied relentlessly, learning everything he could, driven by an obsession with magic. He never allowed himself to give up, unable to accept that magic did not exist in that world. Now in his second life, at 6 years old, he had nearly lost that goal, but the discovery of the glowing orbs brought his hope back once again. Mary enters the room. Xian tells her that it is good she came and asks her to sit beside him. She joins him on the bed and looks at him with surprise when she notices him staring at her. He tells her that he loves her. Mary becomes embarrassed, and at that moment, Xian's body begins to glow. He says that to display this magical energy, he must express his feelings, though he adds that this cannot be the only way to use magic and that he needs to find another method. Mary grows angry and tells him that he treated her like a test subject, just to activate his magic. Xian becomes flustered and says that he was not lying and that everything he said was true. She tells him that she will forgive him this time and asks whether he discovered anything else about magic. He tells her that all he has learned so far is that expressing emotions allows him to activate it, but that there must be other ways. He says he will try using different emotions, such as happiness or fear. As he does, his body begins to glow again, and he says that he succeeded in finding another method. Mary stares at him in astonishment and asks whether he did that on purpose. Xian thinks to himself that even if his body only emits light, it has no real value as long as he cannot turn it into actual magic, but at least he has confirmed that magic truly exists. Some time later, Xian sits alone in his room and reflects again. A month has passed since the last time he reached the glowing state. During that time, he learned several things. To activate the glow, he must reach a specific emotional condition, but maintaining it for long periods is extremely difficult. He also learned that there is a daily limit to how many times he can reach this state, but when his magical energy is completely exhausted, it recovers stronger the next day. He further discovered that those who cannot see the glowing orbs are unable to use magic, and only those who can perceive them have the potential to do so. Xian begins to feel uneasy. He wonders why he cannot produce magical orbs of his own. He questions whether there is a limit to the amount of magical energy a person possesses, and notes that all he can currently do is make his body glow. He questions whether that means his magical energy is even weaker than that of a fish. He feels that something is wrong and that he has reached a dead end. He stops himself and decides that this is not the time to give up. Considering how far he has come, he refuses to accept that he cannot use magic. The fish in the lake cause their bodies to glow before releasing the orbs, and he believes that means he is close to understanding something important. He focuses and activates the glow again, then tries to move the energy into his hand. He fails and notes that it is difficult to concentrate on emotions while also directing the energy. He decides to reverse the order and tries again. This time, his hand emits a stronger light. Xian feels relieved and tests it by striking the wall, only to feel sharp pain. He realizes that it is merely light, not destructive magic, but concludes that it does not matter. Producing a stronger light is still progress, and this marks his first step forward. Later, Xian joins Mary and Rose to train in combat with his father. Xian tells him that he can withdraw, explaining that he does not like hitting others and sees no need to learn combat. His father replies that this is not true, reminding him that humans are not the only enemies, and that monsters exist everywhere outside the village. Rose adds that she asked to learn combat so she could protect herself. Before long, Xian collapses from exhaustion. His father remarks that he did not expect Xian to be so poorly suited for combat, then turns to Rose and tells her that she has a strong aptitude and will become an excellent fighter. He then calls Mary forward and tells her it is her turn. Mary prepares herself and attacks, but her father moves quickly and defeats her with ease. He tells her not to be discouraged, saying that she performed well, though her movements were slow, and that with continued training, she will become skilled within a few years. Mary listens and appears pleased. Afterward, Sheen returns to his room and continues practicing magic but struggles to make progress. He decides to stop and review his research instead. At that moment, his father enters the room and tells him that they will be going to the nearby city to buy supplies. His father asks whether he wants to come with them. Sheen's face brightens, and he answers that of course he will. They soon arrive in the city. Their father tells them that they have reached their destination, though the children are already worn out from the trip. He reminds them that they will be buying several things and warns them not to wander off, so they do not get lost. Sheen feels a quiet disappointment, wishing he could search the city for any clues related to magic. They go about their errands, and once they are finished, their father tells them that they will stop by the blacksmith before heading home. At the forge, the father asks about the item he requested. The blacksmith replies that the sword for Mary is ready and goes to retrieve it. Mary looks surprised as he hands it to her and explains that he made it light so it would not be too heavy for her. Mary accepts it with clear delight. When they are done, they return to the carriage and begin the journey home. Mary turns to Sheen and tells him she hopes he is not upset that their father bought her a gift and not him. Sheen reassures her, saying that it is her birthday, and that he does not want a sword like hers anyway. As the carriage moves on, Sheen notices a strange shop and points it out to his father. His father immediately tells him that the place is dangerous and that there is no need for him to know anything about it yet. Sheen apologizes and says he was only curious. To himself, he recalls reading that the name of the shop is the Fairy Cellar. The following day, a man walks through the forest under heavy rain. He urges himself to return to the village quickly before the firewood he carries becomes soaked. Suddenly, a figure rushes past him, stumbles, and collapses to the ground. He asks if the man is all right. The man answers weakly that monsters have killed everyone and that gulls have appeared. Elsewhere, Sheen sits inside the house, training his magic with Mary. Mary counts the time as he maintains the glow, and he manages to hold it for a full 10 seconds. She claps and tells him that he has set a new record. He tells her that it is thanks to her help. She looks at him and says that he does not seem happy enough. He replies that he is using magic longer than before, but that it is still not enough since it is only radiation. Mary takes his hand and tells him that she loves his magic. At that moment, a noise echoes from downstairs. They go to see what is happening and ask their father what is going on. He tells them that ghouls have appeared in the village, and that these monsters are dangerous and must be dealt with carefully. He orders his wife to gather the women and children of the village, so they can hide in the house, then prepares to leave with the other men to confront the monsters. Mary grips Sheen's hand and tells him not to worry, saying that she will protect him, though fear is visible in her expression. Before their father leaves, Sheen stops him. His father says that he does not have time to talk, but Sheen insists it will be brief. He asks whether the monsters have intelligence and whether they can physically reach the second floor from outside. His father replies that they are foolish and unable to climb. Sheen suggests that everyone hide on the second floor and use furniture to block the doors so the monsters cannot reach them. Soon after, the villagers gather with Sheen's family in an upstairs room. At the same time, one of the monsters slips into the house and begins smashing a window until it breaks through. Panic spreads among them. Mary asks in fear whether the monster can reach them. Sheen tells her to stay quiet so it does not hear them. The monster climbs to the second floor and searches the area. Inside the room they wait in silence, fearing discovery, until the monster passes by without stopping, and relief spreads among them. Suddenly, a loud bolt of lightning strikes. Startled, Rose and her mother make a sound. The monster hears it, turns back, and finds their location. It smashes the door open and stands before them. Sheen's mother steps forward and begs the monster not see the children harmed. She loses her balance and falls. The monster laughs at her. Sheen notices this and realizes that the creature understands how much stronger it is than they are. Mary draws her sword and declares that she will kill it. Sheen shouts for her to retreat, but she refuses, saying that she promised to protect him. The monster easily strikes her sword aside and sends it flying. Mary falls to the ground in shock. As the monster moves to strike her again, their mother steps in and takes the blow in her place. Sheen realizes that he must act, knowing that his mother and sister will die if he does nothing. He rushes forward, grabs the monster's arm, and gathers all the magical power he has learned to control. Intense heat bursts from his body and scorches the monster. It throws him aside, clutching its arm in pain. Sheen attacks again, placing his hand on the monster's head and releasing the heat until the creature collapses and dies. Sheen stares at his hand in disbelief, wondering if he truly killed it. The others recoil in fear. Rose steps forward, takes his hand, and tells him that they are alive because of him. Sheen gives a small smile, then turns to check on his wounded mother. Mary is overcome with panic at the sight of her mother's injuries. Sheen and Rose try to calm her. Rose tells Sheen that she will stay with Mary and urges him to focus on his mother. Sheen checks her condition and notes that her body temperature is low, and that she has lost a large amount of blood. He realizes that he must stop the bleeding, but cannot do so while she lies on the floor. he decides to move her to the bed first. As the women of the village stand nearby, watching in stunned silence, Sheehan asks the women to help him carry his mother, and together they place her on the bed. He then asks if anyone understands medicine. They answer that no one does. He tells himself that this is to be expected in a small village. Remembering what he saw on television in his previous life, he recalls that bleeding can be stopped by stitching. He asks again if anyone knows how to sew. One woman says that she does, but asks what he wants her to do. Sheehan tells them that he needs several things: sewing tools from his mother's bedroom, strong alcohol, and clean cloth. He urges them to hurry, saying they do not have much time. When the items are brought, Sheehan cuts a piece of his mother's clothing to expose the wound. He notes that it is not as deep as he feared and asks the woman to stitch it. She looks at him in shock and asks why they would do such a thing. Sheehan realizes that stitching wounds is unfamiliar in this era and explains that they cannot leave a wound like this open and must close it properly. The woman hesitates, saying she cannot hurt his mother further. Sheehan asks her to trust him and do exactly as he says. She looks at Mary, who is trembling with fear, and finally agrees. Together, they begin treating the wound. When it is over, Sheehan thanks the woman. She says there is no need and asks whether his mother will recover. He tells her they must watch her condition closely, but that she will be fine. Mary breaks down and hugs Sheehan, crying. Soon after, their father returns home. He explains that he and the village men found monster hideouts in the forest and killed 2 of them, but traces of more remained, so they returned quickly. With that, peace is restored to the village. The next day, a doctor examines Sheehan's mother. He says that the wound was deep but did not reach any organs or bones, and that with rest she will recover. Sheehan's mother thanks him. After the doctor leaves, Mary goes to her mother in tears and apologizes, saying that everything that happened was her fault. Her mother holds her hand and tells her that it was not her fault, that she was brave and tried to protect everyone, and that she should be proud of herself. Mary listens and slowly calms down. Later, the father speaks with Sheehan in Mary's presence. He says that the villagers told him what happened, including how Sheehan treated his mother, and asks how he knew what to do and where he learned such knowledge. Sheehan thinks of his previous life but cannot explain it, so he tells his father that he does not know himself. His father then asks how he defeated the monster, pointing out the burn marks on its body and asking if it was magic. Sheehan reacts in surprise and asks how he knew. His father replies that Sheehan behaves like an adult and once spoke to him about something strange during a meal. Sheehan asks if he would believe him if he explained everything. His father answers that he must believe his own children. Mary eagerly adds that Sheehan has been seriously researching magic. Their father becomes stern and tells Sheehan that although he acts mature, he did not expect such behavior. He warns him not to speak of magic in front of others, saying trouble could arise if people discover what he is doing. Sheehan asks if that means anyone who is different will be persecuted. His father answers that this is how the world is and tells him to stop researching magic, calling it a dangerous power. Mary objects, saying that Sheehan spent a long time on this research and that she and their mother are alive because of him. She says they do not even know whether it is truly dangerous. Their father replies that by the time they find out, it may be too late, and that any power capable of killing monsters cannot be harmless. Sheehan says that he will continue his research. He tells his father that he understands he is trying to protect him, but that abandoning this path would leave him empty. To others it may be a dangerous power, but to him it is the power of his dreams. His father tells him that he is still young and that his view of the world will change as he grows. Sheehan answers that it will never change, and that if his existence becomes a burden, his father can disown him. His father asks if he is prepared to face ridicule and rejection if he continues. Sheehan answers that he will continue regardless. The father sits down and, after a moment, tells him that he may continue his research, but that from now on he must share everything he discovers. He says he will stop him if it becomes too dangerous and will also help him learn how to use this power properly. Hearing this, Sheehan breaks down and cries with joy. After that, they move to the house garden so Sheehan can train his magic. His father lights some firewood for him. Mary asks what he intends to do. Sheehan says he wants to test something using the full power of magic. He activates his ability and places his hand into the fire. The flames begin to glow and Sheehan's hand ignites. His father immediately grabs a bucket of water and pours it over him. Mary looks at him in confusion and asks what he was thinking. Sheehan answers that he learned something important, explaining that he wanted to see what would happen when someone with magic interacts with a strong source of natural energy like heat. The result, as they saw, was that the fire reacted, glowing and turning blue. His father says that although he cannot see magical energy, what he witnessed is enough for him to believe Sheehan was telling the truth. Sheehan grows quiet, lost in thought as he imagines new ways to use magic. His father notices his expression and asks why he looks that way. Mary replies that this is how Sheehan always looks when he discovers something new, and tells him not to worry. The next day Sheehan prepares to train again. He tells his father that he is ready, and asks him to throw water on him the moment his hand ignites. Sheehan activates his magic and places his hand into the fire. It ignites at once, and his father extinguishes it with water. Sheehan observes that there is no change in temperature or flame color, and says the fire needs to be stronger. His father increases it and Xian tries again, but the result remains the same. Xian decides to reduce the magical energy slightly and continues experimenting until exhaustion sets in. His father tells him to rest before continuing. Xian steps aside and Rose arrives, noticing that he is soaked. She asks if this is because of magic experiments. When she sees the firewood, she asks if he was trying to combine magic with fire. Xian confirms it and says he will show her later when his father returns, since his father prefers to be present in case something dangerous happens. Rose is surprised to hear that he spoke openly with his father about magic. Xian tells her that his father is now helping him and seems even more invested than he is. He then thanks her for what she did during the monster attack. She asks what he means, and he explains that her words after he killed the monster made him happy. Rose tells him there is no need for thanks, since he is the one who saved them. She then asks where Mary is, noting that she is usually nearby. They look over and see Mary training diligently. Rose says she is probably doing so because of what happened recently. Xian agrees and says she will recover, but Rose tells him that he should support her just as she supports him. Later Xian sits at the table with his father, Mary and Rose. He explains that he discovered increasing magical energy causes the flame to cling more strongly to his hand. He tested other heat sources and found the same effect, concluding that higher heat strengthens the magical flame. He says that magical energy behaves like a flammable substance, though for now it remains ordinary energy without practical use. His father comments that controlling fire is difficult. Xian replies that if he can keep the glowing orbs produced by fish away from his hand, he should be able to control the flames. Mary says she can do it and demonstrates by releasing glowing orbs into the air. Xian is taken aback. Mary explains that she learned the method from him and was able to replicate it, adding that Rose can do it as well. Rose confirms this and demonstrates easily, saying she assumed Xian could already do it. Xian attempts it himself and asks what he should focus on. Mary tells him to stabilize the energy on his hand, and after a moment, he succeeds. They return to the garden for further training. Xian holds a manual ignition tool and focuses his magic on the small spark it produces. A massive ball of flame suddenly erupts and explodes in the air. They all freeze in shock. Mary says she did not expect him to use magic this way. Xian remains still, realizing that he finally succeeded. The magic he had pursued for 30 years was now something he could truly wield. After some time, Xian walks through the yard, worn out from training. He thinks that to use the fireball, he must concentrate his magical energy, but that energy diminishes with use, meaning he needs to plan more carefully next time. He then hears his sister's voice and goes to see what she is doing. He finds Mary training in combat with their father. She is clearly exhausted and has minor injuries from the session. Their father tells her that it is enough for today and that she should rest. Mary refuses and reminds him that he once told her that the more she trains, the stronger she will become. He replies that even training has limits, and that she has already reached hers. Xian steps in and agrees with his father, telling her she should stop. Mary ignores both of them, continues for a moment longer, then glares at Xian and walks away without another word. Their father tells Xian not to worry, explaining that Mary is tense because of the monster attack. Later, Xian sits with his father to discuss his next research idea. He asks whether there is anything in this world that produces electricity. His father reacts with confusion and asks what electricity is. Xian explains that it is similar to lightning, and asks whether there are animals or plants that can produce it. His father says he does not know of any, but mentions that the blacksmith Grast once spoke of a weaker form of lightning he had seen somewhere. He suggests they go to the city. Mary declines to come this time. She walks Xian to the door, closes it behind him, then returns to her room and looks at the bandages on her hand, her expression heavy. Xian and his father visit Grast, who explains that they are likely talking about lightning metal. When asked where it can be found, Grast says it is difficult to transport and somewhat dangerous, which is why merchants usually leave it where it is. Xian asks about rubber trees, but Grast has never heard of them. Xian realizes that rubber has not been discovered here, leaving glass as the only electrical insulator. He asks whether Grast has volcanic glass, a transparent mineral that looks like crystal. Grast replies that he does, calling it paper crystal, and says he kept some because it looked beautiful. Xian is struck by its appearance and asks to touch it. Grast allows it. When asked what he plans to do next, Xian says he needs a larger piece. Grast tells him to look in the trade district, though it will be expensive. Xian's father immediately agrees to buy it. Xian is surprised and asks if he really will. His father answers that Xian needs it and that price does not matter, especially since Xian never asks for anything. They return home with the lightning metal Grast provided. In the garden, Xian prepares to test his magic on it. His mother watches with a smile, saying she can finally see his experiments for herself. Xian activates his magic near the metal, and a powerful spark erupts. His father tells him not to be discouraged by failure, reminding him that many failures came before he mastered fire. Xian suddenly laughs and says that the experiment was a success. His parents look at him in surprise. Xian realizes that when his magic interacts with metal, it produces a strong spark, meaning that magic imitates the properties of whatever phenomenon it touches. With this, he feels closer to using many different forms of magic. Later, Xian sits alone and wonders how to turn this magic into an electric current that he can release as a shock. He realizes there is no need to confine magic to the shape of a sphere. He experiments with changing its form and succeeds. He understands that he was too focused on copying the fish's magic, and that he needs to be more flexible. He goes to Mary's room to tell her about his discovery, but she is not there. He notices the bandages she left behind on the bed and rushes outside to look for her. He calls her name and eventually finds her at the lake, training alone. Mary asks why he came. Sheehan tells her that she always supported him with his magic, but that he failed to notice her. Mary admits that she wondered why he did not help her, and says she felt jealous. She explains that as his older sister, she always believed it was her role to protect him. She trained hard for that reason, but when the monster attacked, she could do nothing and would have died if he had not saved her. She says she could not accept that she was the one being protected. Sheehan asks if she hates him now. Mary answers that she never could, and that she will always love him. She says she cannot forgive herself, and that she still feels jealous of his power, because she sees herself as weak. She explains that this is why she keeps training, believing that her confidence will return once she becomes stronger. Sheehan kneels and hugs her, telling her that he did not understand her feelings and that he was not always by her side. He apologizes quietly. The next day, Sheehan stands in the garden to continue his experiments. He activates his magic and expands the magic sphere to a much larger size, but quickly realizes that doing so thins the energy. As a result, the power becomes insufficient to trigger fire magic. He reduces the sphere's size and uses the ignition tool. This time the fire activates successfully. He notes to himself that condensing the energy clearly increases the strength of the flame. He then turns his attention back to the lightning metal. Using a small amount of magical energy, he produces only a faint spark. When he increases the energy output, the sparks suddenly spread violently, knocking him to the ground. Mary and Rose rush to him in alarm. Sheehan reassures them that he is fine. Rose asks why the lightning moved back toward him instead of forward. Sheehan agrees that it should have traveled outward, but admits he does not understand why it behaved that way. He finds it strange that the lightning was drawn toward the source of magical energy. To himself, he senses that he is close to uncovering something important, though he cannot yet grasp it. He wonders if this magic might have no real limits. At that moment his father arrives with Grast the blacksmith. They go inside to talk. Sheehan's father explains that Grast followed Sheehan's idea and attempted to transport lightning metal for commercial purposes. Grast admits that he tried to turn it into a profitable trade without asking permission and asks for forgiveness. Sheehan's father tells him it is not a problem, which surprises Grast. He insists that he stole the idea for his own benefit, but the father replies that this is not the real issue. Grast takes them to his warehouse, which is filled with lightning metal. He explains that the metal is unsuitable for lighting because it is dangerous. People bought it out of curiosity but soon returned it, disturbed by the constant crackling sounds. He says that within 3 days, he will no longer be able to afford the warehouse rent, and asks Sheehan to find a way to sell the metal quickly. Sheehan agrees to try but warns him not to rely on him as he has no clear plan yet. He then asks why the metal pieces are stored so far apart. Grast brings two pieces closer together and a powerful attraction occurs between them, releasing intense light and electricity. The sight leaves them all stunned. Grast then shows them lightning metal that has been melted. In this state, it is calm and produces no electricity. Sheehan asks whether it reacts if brought near another piece of the same melted metal. Grast tells him to try it himself and hands him another melted piece. Sheehan brings them close together but no reaction occurs. He asks at what point during melting the lightning stops. Grast explains that the metal still produced lightning when it was broken, but that the effect nearly vanished once it was heated and fully melted. Sheehan moves to the furnace to conduct another experiment, using his magic to produce fire. Grast watches in amazement and asks what he just did. Sheehan answers simply that it is magic. Grast then asks whether the result would change if Sheehan used that fire to melt the metal. Sheehan admits that he does not know, explaining that he is still in the middle of researching how magic works. Grast says that melting the metal usually takes about an hour and suggests that they take a walk and return later. Sheehan refuses, saying that he wants to observe the experiment himself. After Grast finishes melting the metal, he brings the pieces close to one another. Intense electrical sparks immediately erupt between them. Sheehan reacts with visible relief, and the others clap when they realize the experiment succeeded. Sheehan tells them that this metal can be used to create products and sold to people. From that moment, production begins without delay. Grast works for 3 days straight, barely resting. By the end, they complete a lightning lamp, which outperforms ordinary lamps and does not run out. They also create another product, a lighter that ignites firewood faster than conventional ones. Grast thanks Sheehan for his help. Sheehan's mother suggests they return home for lunch now that the work is finished. The family prepares to leave, and Grast sees them off. On the way, Mary asks Sheehan how he managed to create those products. He tells her that he tried to build whatever came to mind using magic, and that it worked. At the same time, people welcome the products and the entire stock sold out quickly. After returning home, Sheehan goes to the garden holding a candle, with Rose and Mary beside him. They ask what he plans to try next. Sheehan explains that a candle stays lit because of oxygen, and that if he covers it with a cup, the flame will go out because oxygen is cut off. Rose says this is the same principle used to extinguish ordinary lamps. Sheehan agrees, then says he will repeat the experiment using fire magic and isolate it from oxygen. Mary says she expects the flame will not go out, while Rose expects it will. Sheehan lights the candle with magic, covers it, then removes the cup. The flame remains burning. Mary reacts with satisfaction at being right. Xian reflects that magic does not require oxygen, meaning magical energy is unaffected by external conditions. Fire magic is clearly different from ordinary fire. Still, he decides to conduct another experiment. He releases fire magic in the form of a sphere and asks Mary to apply magical energy to it. A massive explosion follows, throwing all of them to the ground. Xian immediately rushes to Mary to check on her. Rose asks if he expected this result. Xian answers that he did not, and that he assumed the fireball would only grow larger. An idea forms in his mind. He moves to the lightning metal and tells them that what he is about to test is not magical energy itself. Rose and Mary are surprised. Xian explains that it is the reaction between air and magic. When he first applied magic to the metal, he felt strong resistance from the wind, which suggests that magical energy acts as fuel, fulfilling the same role as air. At sunset, Xian continues experimenting while wearing gloves Grast gave him. Grast explains that they are made from materials that insulate electricity and resist heat. Xian proceeds to combine magical energy with lightning and fire. The results are violent explosions. Xian shouts that he succeeded, then breaks down in tears. Mary steps forward and embraces him. The next day, Xian trains in the garden with Rose and Mary. When they finish, he thanks them for helping him. Mary answers that it is only natural, since she is his older sister. As he walks through the house later, Xian recalls something he once overheard his father say, that they adopted Xian from someone else. The memory settles in his mind, and he realizes that he and Mary are not related by blood. They later go to the lake so Xian can attempt water magic. At first, nothing happens. Mary and Rose ask what he is trying to do. Xian explains that in a previous experiment, he learned that magical energy released into the sky takes on the properties of air, so he wonders whether releasing it into water will cause it to take on the properties of water as well. He adjusts his method and tries again. This time, the water begins to rise. After some time, Xian comes out of the lake and reflects that discovering water magic exists is an important step. He tells Mary and Rose to watch closely. He then tries to gather water from the air using magic, but fails. He reasons that the failure may be due to insufficient energy, so he increases the output and tries again. This time, a small sphere of water forms in his hand. Mary rushes to him in amazement, hugs him tightly, and asks where he got the water from. Xian explains how he controlled it. Mary and Rose attempt to imitate him and both succeed. They react with visible joy. After that, the three of them go to the city with Grast, heading to the monster-slaying guild. Grast explains that to become members, they must register, and asks if they are certain about joining. Mary answers that if she runs away now, she will never regain her confidence. Xian asks Grast to keep this a secret and not inform his father. Inside the guild, Grast introduces himself at the reception desk, stating that he is a platinum rank fighter and wishes to register the three children. Suddenly, their father appears behind them and introduces himself as a diamond rank fighter who will act as their supporter. The room falls silent and people whisper in shock, noting that such a rank is almost unheard of. Outside the guild, the children apologize for going there without telling him. Their father replies that he expected it. When they ask how he knew, he explains that Mary's behavior over the past few days was unusual, so he suspected they were planning something. He scolds them for attempting something so dangerous without informing him, then tells them that from now on, they must tell him immediately. He adds that having a high-rank fighter with them ensures their safety, and that he will accompany them when they face monsters. The three feel relieved and reassured. They head to the area where monsters have appeared. Their father engages first, blocking the monsters' attacks and defeating them with ease. He tells them that he only reduced their numbers and that they will return. When they do, he will leave the rest to them. He explains that these monsters are weaker than goblins and suitable for their first real battle. Mary and Rose will take the front, while Xian stays behind them. The monsters charge again. Xian launches the first attack using fire magic and reinforcing it with magical energy. A massive explosion follows, wiping out many of the monsters. Another monster rushes toward him as his energy runs low. The monster leaps at him but Mary reaches him in time. Together the three of them fight, striking down the remaining monsters one by one. After the battle, Xian thanks Mary for saving him. She tells him there is no need, reminding him again that she is his older sister and that protecting him is her role. She adds that she feels a little more confident now. Their father praises them for the fight and says there is no time to rest, that they must move on to the next stage and gain as much experience as possible. The three are taken aback. After the second battle, they are completely exhausted. Their father tells them he will collect the loot with Grast while they rest. The three sit beneath a tree. Xian notices a large tent nearby and leads them toward it. Mary hesitates and says they should not go any farther, but Xian enters anyway. Inside, he sees a strange light coming from a cage. When he approaches, he discovers a fairy imprisoned inside. Mary asks if she is different from monsters. Xian reaches out, but the fairy recoils in fear. They decide to free her. Xian opens the cage and the fairy flies out at once. The three of them stand still, struck by her beauty. They return home. Their mother is shocked when she sees them injured. Their father becomes uneasy under her gaze, and she scolds him sharply before turning to the children and demanding to know what happened. Frightened, Mary and Xian explain everything. Their mother reveals that she already knew about the monster hunting, as their father told her beforehand. Xian asks why she scolded him then. She explains that it is unacceptable for her children to return home injured, and that their father clearly pushed them too far for their first experience. She tells them not to misunderstand her, saying that as long as they are not harming others, they may do what they wish. Her only request is that they take care of themselves. Mary and Sheehan apologize quietly. 2 years later, they head to the battlefield to face monsters once again. Sheehan stands before a goblin like the one that attacked their home long ago. He activates storm magic and guides it carefully, trapping the creature within swirling winds before hurling it far away. The goblin is defeated with little effort. Sheehan notes to himself that he invented this spell recently, though it requires a long casting time and is meant more for control than direct attack. Mary calls out to him and approaches with Rose, asking if he has finished dealing with his share of monsters. He answers that he has. He reflects that 2 years have passed since they began serious combat training. Mary smiles and tells him that he defeated 20 goblins on his own. Afterward, they walk through the city market. Sheehan reflects that over the past 2 years, he has learned to gauge a person's magical energy just by looking at them, and among humans, Rose and Mary possess the highest levels he has seen. As they walk, Mary notices how many fighters are joining the guild. Rose explains that the number of goblins has increased and that they have been appearing closer to the city. Mary suggests stopping by the blacksmith Grast. They visit Grast, who greets them warmly. Sheehan asks whether he plans to melt lightning metal again. Grast replies that he has done enough of that, then mentions that he finished making the gloves Sheehan requested. Sheehan is surprised, saying he only asked for them recently and thanks him. Grast replies that Sheehan goes through them quickly, but that this only shows how much he has grown. He then asks how their battles have been without him and Sheehan's father. Mary answers that they are close to reaching silver rank. Grast reacts with disbelief and says he has never heard of anyone achieving that rank at their age. They return home to train with their father. Sheehan faces him first and eventually defeats him. Then it is Mary's turn. She fights with determination, but loses. She sits down in frustration and says she cannot defeat him at all, while Sheehan manages to win every time. Their father tells her not to rush, saying it is still early and that she will surpass Sheehan someday. Mary walks off to train alone. Sheehan asks his father about her, and he replies that for her age, she already possesses an exceptional talent with the sword. Later, Sheehan and Mary go with Rose to her farm. Rose apologizes for asking for their help, explaining that there is a shortage of workers. Sheehan asks what they need to do. Rose says she wants their help removing pests that damage the crops. Mary is uneasy around them, and while they begin gathering them quickly, Mary struggles and falls behind, drawing light laughter from the others. When they finish, Mary has collected only a small number. She declares that next year they will compete to see who gathers more, confident that she will win then. At that moment, the sky darkens and strange lights appear above. They are caught off guard, as the sky was clear just moments before. Rain begins to fall. Rose urges them to come inside her house until the storm passes. Suddenly Mary collapses. Sheehan and Rose rush to her side. They carry her into Rose's house. Soon after, their father and mother arrive in distress. Their mother rushes to Mary crying. Mary opens her eyes, but shows no reaction and does not respond. Rose says quietly that this may be the lethargy disease. Their father asks if she means the illness that recently spread through the city. Rose confirms it, saying she heard rumors at the market. She explains that its symptoms include sudden collapse, immobility, and loss of speech despite remaining conscious, resembling extreme sluggishness, which is why it was named the lethargy disease. Their mother asks if anyone recovers from it. Rose answers that, to her knowledge, almost no one does. She has never heard of a case where someone recovered, and the cause remains unknown. Their mother's fear deepens, and she begins to cry. Their father says they must go to the doctor immediately. He tells them that he will take Mary to the city immediately and orders Sheehan to return home with his mother. Sheehan refuses and says he will come as well. His father tells him that this is not possible, warning that dangerous monsters appear at this time and that the road is unsafe. Sheehan answers that his father will not be able to protect Mary alone while driving, and that even if he is still a child he can fight alongside him. After a brief hesitation, his father agrees. They board the carriage and rush toward the city. His father tells Sheehan to watch over Mary. Sheehan then notices a red light in the sky and asks about it, but his father says he sees nothing. Sheehan realizes something is wrong. Suddenly, a pack of wolves attacks the carriage. Sheehan tells his father to keep going and says he will deal with them. He puts on his gloves and thinks that he cannot use fire or lightning magic in the rain, leaving only water and air magic. He gathers rainwater into his hand, shapes it into bullets, and fires them at the wolves. Even so, he realizes their numbers are too great. Without warning, the wolves retreat and flee in a strange manner. Sheehan is left confused, wondering why they suddenly ran away. A giant specter then appears before him. Fear grips Sheehan and he tells his father to look at the monster, but his father says he sees nothing. Sheehan realizes that only those with magical energy can perceive it. He attacks with water magic, but the bullets pass straight through the specter without effect. The creature reaches out toward him. Sheehan wonders if he is about to die again. He recalls how he defeated the goblin in their home and decides to use the same approach, focusing his magical energy to burn it. The specter reacts and Sheehan realizes that the energy may be purifying it. The specter moves toward his father and draws close, but when it nears the lightning lamp in the carriage, it recoils at once. At that moment, his father is suddenly able to see the specter clearly. Sheehan leaps forward and releases his energy again, burning the creature until it is destroyed. He nearly falls from a great height, but his father catches him in time. His father scolds him for acting recklessly. Xian answers that there was no other way to defeat it and apologizes. His father tells him there is no need, saying they survived because of him. They resume their journey. His father says that the monster was unlike anything he has ever seen. Xian is surprised and asks if he could truly see it. His father confirms that he saw it clearly once it approached him. Xian looks at the lightning lamp and concludes that it must be connected to what happened. When they arrive at the doctor's clinic, they are shocked by how many people are suffering from the lethargy disease. Xian tries to help and asks the doctor to examine his sister. The doctor tells him to wait their turn. His father says there is no choice but to wait. After a long time, the doctor finally examines Mary and confirms that she is infected with the lethargy disease. He says there is no known treatment, and that all they can do is observe her condition. Xian recalls his time with Mary, then cries out to the doctor, begging him to do something, as tears begin to fall. The family decides to remain in the city so they can stay close to the doctor. They take shelter in one of Grast's warehouses. They thank Grast for letting them stay, and he tells them there is no need, saying they have helped him many times and this is his way of repaying them. He adds that what matters now is focusing on Mary, then leaves, promising to check on them later. Sometime later, Xian sits beside Mary, watching her in silence. He thinks that he does not know how much time has passed, and that no matter how often he calls her name she never responds. His father enters and tells him that someone wants to see him. Xian refuses, saying he will not leave Mary alone. His father reminds him of the specter that attacked them 4 days ago, explaining that on that same day, similar specters appeared elsewhere, attacking and killing people. He says they will appear again and cause more deaths, and that Xian is the only one capable of defeating them. If they are left unchecked, the number of victims will continue to rise. Xian still refuses and says he will stay there and never leave her side. His father asks if that means he does not care if people die. He approaches Xian, places a hand on him, and asks whether he would still say it is not his problem even if such a monster attacked their village. Xian pushes him away and shouts that he is not obligated to save anyone, that all he wants is to stay with his sister, and questions why his father seems unconcerned about her. His father answers that he is more worried about her than anyone else, that she is his daughter, and that he would give his life to save her. But he says that right now there is no other choice, and that Xian has the power to save many people. Xian recalls his moments with Mary and after a long pause, decides to help. He stands in front of his sister and his father looks at him in surprise. In that moment, Xian senses something wrong and realizes that Mary has no magical energy at all. He rushes out into the street, wondering how he failed to notice this before. He takes his father with him to the doctor's clinic. His father asks if he has discovered anything. Xian answers that he has noticed all the patients there have no trace of magical energy, and that no one in the city seems to possess any either. He concludes that magic must be connected to the disease. He says that since no one has identified the cause or treatment, he will have to rely on himself to find a solution. They then go to see the city mayor. Xian's father apologizes for visiting without notice and introduces Xian. He suggests that lightning lamps be carried at all times, as they are effective at repelling specters. The mayor suddenly breaks down, crying and speaking incoherently, saying that disasters have only increased since he took office and that he thought ruling the city would be easier. Xian watches in confusion. After a moment, the mayor regains his composure and tells them that he already gathered many lightning lamps and distributed them to soldiers on night patrol. Xian's father praises him for his foresight. The mayor says there is no need for praise and urges them to focus on what matters. He explains that he has heard the disease is connected to magic, and that Xian's father told him everything. Since Xian's magic affects the monsters, he believes that gathering those with magical energy will make it possible to defeat them. Xian replies that there is a problem, explaining that teaching magic takes time, and that everyone who once possessed magical energy has already been infected by the disease. The mayor asks if Xian has any understanding of the lethargy disease, noting that the doctor's research is progressing slowly. Xian answers that he does. He explains that when an ordinary person is exhausted, their magical energy eventually returns to normal through rest, but those infected with the lethargy disease have completely lost their energy. He believes it may be possible to restore that energy through living creatures. The mayor points out that if Xian fails, all the patients will die. Xian acknowledges this and resolves to bear any outcome if it means saving his sister. After leaving, Xian reflects on how the mayor provided him with assistance for the research and wonders why a man of such status trusted the words of a child without even witnessing his magic. The next day, Xian gathers in his house with the assistants the mayor sent. He suggests they introduce themselves. One man begins and says his name is Cole, explaining that he is the doctor's assistant. One of the women follows, saying her name is Ravina, that she is the rightful heir to the ruler of another city, and that she currently serves as the secret commander of this city's guard. Xian then asks the last person to introduce herself. She speaks hesitantly, saying her name is Git and that she is a monster expert. Xian thanks all three of them for coming and tells them they are about to begin a dangerous mission. They head to a training ground, where Xian demonstrates his abilities. All three are left stunned and ask what they just witnessed. Xian tells them that it is a technique he invented called magic, and that he can manipulate natural phenomena such as air, water, and lightning. Cole asks whether this is connected to the lethargy disease. Xian answers that he does not know yet. They move on to confront monsters. Ravina struggles to walk properly in her heavy armor. Git asks Shein whether the invisible monster she was assigned to research is related to the lethargy disease. Shein replies that it is not. He explains that to treat the infected, they must find a way to restore magical energy. He says that when he releases his energy against monsters, it reacts with theirs and burns them, which is why they need to find monsters that possess magical energy. He adds that this is why a monster expert like Git is essential. Git reacts with clear satisfaction. A goblin appears before them, wearing armor. Shein is surprised by the sight. Git asks with curiosity why the goblin would be equipped like that. Ravina finally decides to shed her own heavy armor, draws her sword and rushes at the monster. The goblin raises its weapon and prepares to strike her down, but Shein reaches them just in time and uses lightning magic to disrupt it. The monster staggers back, then suddenly reappears behind Ravina and attacks. Ravina tries to block the blow but is sent crashing into a tree. Shein immediately attacks the goblin with magic and Ravina rises again, grips her sword and drives it into the monster, bringing it down. The next day Shein sits with Rose and asks about his mother. Rose tells him that she is upstairs with Mary. She explains that she offered to take her place, but his mother refused, wanting to stay beside Mary longer. Rose then mentions that she heard Shein began researching the lethargy disease and asks if there is anything she can do to help. Shein tells her that she already has responsibilities at home and cannot travel constantly, and that 3 specialists are assisting him with the research. Rose looks down and says that even though her close friend is in danger, she cannot help in any way. Shein tells her not to think like that, explaining that her support of his mother has already eased many burdens. Later, Shein walks with Cole and asks where they are going. Cole replies that they are heading to the clinic, saying the mayor ordered him to take Shein there in case he could discover something. When they arrive, a doctor tells them that several patients there are suffering from mild cases of the lethargy disease. Shein places his hand on one of the patients and activates his magic. He realizes that the man still has a faint trace of magical energy, just as he expected, and concludes that the disease is caused by a loss of energy. He asks Cole about the patient's condition. Cole replies that the pulse has slightly increased, and that the patient's eyes moved. Afterward, Shein tells him that when he transferred magical energy, the patient's fingertips moved, showing a clear reaction. Cole says that for now, they can only monitor the condition and gradually increase the amount of energy. At that moment a doctor enters and asks what they have done. Shein starts to explain, but Cole interrupts and insists that they leave immediately. Outside the clinic, Cole warns Shein not to mention magic, magical energy, or any details about treating the lethargy disease in front of anyone. He explains that the doctors are devoting all their efforts to researching treatments, and interference could cause problems. Shein replies that this means their work might be obstructed, even though they are only trying to help the infected. That night, Shein goes to check on Mary and tries to transfer magical energy to her. There is no reaction. He tells himself not to rush, reminding himself how long it took to develop magic in the first place, and that this path is no different. The next day, Shein goes into the forest with Git and Ravina to hunt monsters and attempt to extract their energy. While Ravina fights, Shein works with Git to conduct experiments. He grabs a monster's arm and channels magic into it. The monster screams in pain as Git records her observations. When Shein reaches a certain level of energy, the monster's arm disintegrates. Git concludes that even small amounts of magical energy burn monsters, confirming that the energy purifies them. Shein replies that humans may react differently. Shein returns home and sits beside Mary, thinking about Git's words. Rose enters and tells him she brought what he asked for, fish from the lake. Shein holds them and tries transferring energy, but it stops after reaching a certain limit. Rose observes that he likely released a large amount of energy, yet the fish were unaffected. Shein concludes that magical energy only purifies monsters. He then wonders whether the reaction would be different with uninfected humans. Rose says that to observe such a reaction, he would need a human subject. She adds that she is the only person with magical energy who is not infected, and that if there is any way she can help Mary, she is willing to do it. She tells him to perform the experiment on her. Shein hesitates, then tells her to inform him immediately if she feels any pain or discomfort. He takes her hands and begins the reaction. After some time, Shein asks Rose if she feels alright. She tells him she only feels a gentle warmth and that everything is fine. He asks whether she feels any pain. She answers honestly that the sensation is pleasant. In the middle of the experiment, Shein remembers what happened to the monster's arm. Fear grips him, and he immediately stops the flow of magic. Rose takes his hands again and tells him to continue, assuring him not to worry. Shein resumes the experiment, then halts the magic at a certain point. Rose asks if that was the maximum amount of magical energy he could use. He replies that it is almost the limit, but that the interaction time needs to be extended a little more. A month passes. Guards begin abandoning the lightning lamps, and Shein stands with his 3 assistants. He tells them that it has been a month since the specters last appeared, and that people likely believe the danger has passed. Git replies that if the specters were to appear again now, it would be disastrous. Cole says he doubts they will return and admits that he is still not fully convinced the lamps are effective. Suddenly, Ravina raises her sword toward Cole. Both Cole and Shein freeze. Ravina tells him to consider what Shein has been doing all this time, caring for his sister, supporting his mother, researching the disease, and hunting monsters, all while achieving results. Cole falls silent, then admits that thanks to Shein, They made progress in researching the lethargy disease that even trained doctors could not achieve. Xian asks Git whether there are any signs of new monsters. She tells him there have been no reports. Xian wonders aloud if specters only appear in certain locations. Git suggests they may have begun appearing after the Legendary War. Xian is surprised, having never heard of it. Ravina tells him that it was a legendary war that took place 1,000 years ago, when all nations united to fight demons. That night the mayor sits alone in his palace, recording notes about the lethargy disease. He writes that transferring magical energy to mild cases caused blinking and physical reactions, which counted as progress. He adds that transferring large amounts of magical energy led to the onset of the disease itself, and that this process exhausted Xian's energy. Since then, Xian has been searching for a way to restore it, and no further progress has been made. 2 years later, Xian stands in the clinic beside a patient. The man's wife tells him that her husband smiled and thanks him. Xian says he did nothing worthy of gratitude. She replies that even a brief smile was enough. Afterward, Cole approaches Xian and tells him he looks exhausted, asking whether he is sleeping properly and reminding him that he does not need to shoulder everything alone. Xian tells him not to worry. Xian returns home to find Git and Ravina waiting for him. He brings them inside, where his mother and Rose welcome them. Soon after, his father and Grast arrive, and they all sit down to eat together. Xian's thoughts drift to Mary, and the others sense his sadness. His father tells him that he needs to rest. Xian answers that he is not tired, but that he no longer has any magical energy. His father tells him that he and Xian's mother discussed it, and that if this continues, Xian will collapse before he can cure Mary. His parents stand and embrace him. Xian tells them that he truly is not exhausted, and that curing his sister is all that matters to him. He admits that he understands the importance of rest and will not rush things. His father says the burden he carries is too heavy. Xian replies that researching magic was far more exhausting, and that researching the lethargy disease does not feel the same. He says he will continue the research even if it takes his entire life. After dinner, Xian sits beside Mary for a while. Suddenly a deep red light spreads across the sky. Xian grabs the lightning lamps and heads downstairs to investigate. He meets Rose and tells her he must inform the mayor. She insists on coming with him, but he tells her to stay behind and look after his mother and Mary, saying she is the only one who can. As Xian leaves the house, he realizes that this is the same red light he saw on the night Mary fell ill. At that moment, a swarm of specters descends upon the city. As Xian watches the sky, 2 soldiers pass in front of him. He notices a specter standing directly in their path and tries to warn them, but they look at him with confusion, unable to see anything. Xian rushes forward, strikes the specter with his magic, and destroys it. The moment his magic takes effect, the specter becomes visible, leaving the soldiers frozen in shock. Xian heads straight to the mayor's palace and reports what he saw. The mayor becomes visibly unsettled and immediately turns to a nearby soldier, ordering the guards to prepare, distribute the lightning lamps, and move to the city gates. Xian asks to accompany the soldiers, explaining that the lamps alone will not be enough and that he must be there to fight the specters himself. After a brief pause, the mayor agrees. Xian joins the soldiers and meets their commander. The commander speaks with irritation, saying that Xian was dissatisfied with the lightning lamps and gathered soldiers without cause. Xian hears murmurs among the troops, some saying the mayor has fallen back into his delusions, and that the lamps are useless compared to ordinary ones. At that moment, Ravina arrives and asks what orders they have received. The commander dismisses her, telling her to return home and rest. The soldiers mock her unit as one that only handles minor missions. Ravina answers firmly that this is no time for rest and declares she will give everything to restore order. She joins Xian, and together with the soldiers they move toward the city walls. As they run, Ravina asks where they are headed. Xian replies that they are going to the main gate, where they can observe specter movements from a distance. On the way, Xian spots specters roaming the city streets. Ravina asks if they should descend and eliminate them, but Xian says they would not catch them and orders them to keep moving. At the gate, Xian jumps ahead of the guards stationed there. He wonders why using magic feels easier than before. The guards are startled and demand to know who he is. Xian tells them to leave immediately, warning that specters are about to attack. They accuse him of lying, insisting there are no monsters. Xian strikes the ground with magic, and a group of specters reveals itself, rushing toward them. He unleashes lightning magic and wipes them out. The guards stare at him in disbelief and ask who he is. Xian climbs atop the gate and sees a massive swarm of specters approaching. Ravina asks what he sees. Xian tells her that more than 100 specters are coming, and that if they are not stopped, the city will be destroyed. He spreads fire magic along the walls, making the specters visible as they approach. Ravina commands her soldiers, saying that as long as the enemy can be seen, they can be killed, and that they must hold the gate until reinforcements arrive. When the specters reach them, the battle begins. Xian charges first, tearing through the enemy with fire magic and destroying many of them. Their numbers continue to press in. Xian struggles to hold them back until Ravina joins him, telling him that her pride as a knight will not allow her to leave him to fight alone. In the midst of the battle, the fire Xian provided near Ravina fades, and she wishes she had her sword. One of her soldiers quickly ignites her sword with Xian's fire and throws it to her. She catches it and returns to the fight, thanking him. Xian continues fighting with everything he has. He realizes with surprise that his magic has not run dry despite how much he has used. He notes that he has drawn on his power more than 100 times that day and still has energy left, and wonders if the red light is the reason. He recalls the night the specters first appeared 2 years earlier. Another specter rushes him and he destroys it instantly, forcing himself to refocus on the battle. Nearby, soldiers hurl fire at the specters and watch as the creatures throw themselves into the flames to die. One soldier realizes that the specters are sacrificing themselves to extinguish the magical fire. Xian gathers his remaining power and releases it in a massive explosion, incinerating the swarm. Ravina approaches him, but he tells her he is fine and that the monsters are gone. At that moment, Xian notices yet another swarm approaching. He is shaken and orders the soldiers to retreat, saying he will face them alone. Ravina protests, telling him he is pushing himself too far. Xian answers that there is no other choice and that he must protect the city and its people. Suddenly, Grast calls out to him. Xian turns in surprise as Grast explains that he gathered the guild's fighters to help. They quickly prepare for battle, igniting their weapons with Xian's fire. As the specters close in, the fighters launch flaming arrows, striking down the monsters one by one. Xian is taken aback and asks Git if she was the one who planned all of this. She tells him that he was the one who explained that his magic was effective against specters, and that she went to the guild herself to gather the fighters. She adds that she wanted to be useful to him, because she sees how much effort he puts in every day, and felt she had to support him in any way she could. Xian thanks her, then returns to the fight alongside them. When the battle ends, the soldiers' commander steps forward and demands to know what they are doing. He accuses them of disguising themselves as invisible monsters to spread fear throughout the city. Ravina answers that this is not true, stating that everyone present fought with everything they had to eliminate the specters. The commander scoffs and says there is no such thing as specters, asking where they are now. Xian insists they were in the city, but the commander claims that nothing appeared and accuses Xian of lying. He declares that Xian's deception has been exposed, and asks what he did to manipulate the mayor into supporting him. Grast steps in and tells him that it is not their fault he could not see the specters, explaining that he arrived too late. He adds that if not for Xian, the city would have faced destruction, and that all the fighters present are witnesses. The commander orders them to be silent, calling them liars, and commands the soldiers to arrest them. At that moment his body suddenly lifts into the air. Fear overtakes his face as he asks what is happening. A hand emerges from empty space and strikes him down, killing him instantly. Shock spreads through the group as the Spectre King reveals himself. He looks upon them and says that it has been a long time since he last emerged, and that he has finally broken free. Xian realizes that the red light spreading over the city is his own magical energy. Grast demands to know who the being before them is. The creature answers that one should introduce oneself before asking such a question, then calmly declares that it is a demon. They react in shock as it continues, saying it is strange that humans do not even remember demons, and that humanity has always been ignorant. It asks how they could forget a war against demons that lasted nearly 1,000 years. It explains that it was imprisoned throughout that time, and that nothing compares to the feeling of freedom. It then states that it intends to kill them quickly, and with a simple movement of its finger, it obliterates the surrounding area. Xian reacts instantly, grabbing Grast and the others and leaping away. Even so, the force of the explosion overwhelms them, sending them flying. Once they regain their footing, Xian tells Ravina and Git to evacuate the city's residents. Ravina asks what he plans to do. Xian answers that he must face the demon alone. He says the creature possesses overwhelming magical energy, far beyond what anyone else can withstand, and that it also uses magic. He admits that he failed to understand the situation sooner, and that the specter attacks were a sign of this being's arrival. He tells them that the real battle is only beginning. Grast asks who the being truly is. Xian says he does not know, but that the space around it is saturated with magical energy, nearly 100 times stronger than his own. Grast is stunned and declares that he will fight alongside Xian, refusing to leave him alone. Elsewhere in the city, the demon moves through the streets in destruction, expressing satisfaction at the chaos. Xian tells Grast that he will confront it directly, and that Grast should wait for an opening to strike from behind. He explains that he will act as bait, since he is the only one capable of avoiding the demon's attacks. Grast agrees, asking Xian not to die, saying he would not be able to face his family if he did. They resolve to defeat the demon together. Xian advances and uses water magic to extinguish the flames the demon created. The demon looks at him in surprise and notes that Xian possesses magical energy with red hair and eyes. It suggests that Xian must be from the lineage of Ligria, since ordinary humans cannot use magic, and asks where the rest of his people are. Xian does not understand what it is referring to. The demon mocks his ignorance, then says it will kill him, adding that while Xian can use magic, it is still primitive. The demon releases its magic and devastates the area, but Xian narrowly escapes. He counters with water magic shaped into projectiles, firing them through the smoke. For a moment, he wonders if he succeeded. The demon emerges unharmed, commenting on the spell, then charges at him. Xian attempts to evade, but the demon moves faster, appears behind him, and strikes him, sending him flying. Xian uses air magic to soften the impact. The demon approaches again, gathering its magic for another attack. Xian realizes he will not have time to prepare water magic, and that if this continues, he will be killed. Memories of his life surface in his mind, and he steels himself, deciding that he will not die and that he will protect everyone here. At the same time, injured soldiers are brought to the clinic. Cole examines them and notes the severity of their burns, asking what happened. One soldier tells him that a dangerous individual appeared suddenly and began destroying the city. Cole looks out the window and thinks that it resembles magic, hoping that Sheehan is still alive. Meanwhile, Ravina and Git work to evacuate the residents, warning them of the explosions and directing them to safety. Ravina encounters her soldiers and expresses relief that they survived. She asks about Sheehan's whereabouts. They answer that they were retreating and did not see what happened, but say that the monster is extremely powerful and that they doubt Sheehan can defeat it. Ravina orders them to continue evacuating the city, then tells Git that she is going to help Sheehan. Git tries to stop her, warning that such a monster cannot be defeated easily. Ravina answers that she believes she and Sheehan will return victorious. The battle resumes. The demon gathers its magic and strikes. Sheehan uses his own magic to shake the ground, evades the blow, and attacks with water and lightning. The demon blocks both effortlessly. Sheehan is stunned, realizing that the demon used insulating materials to counter lightning, something he thought should not exist yet. The demon tells him that it has a counter for every spell Sheehan uses, including water and lightning. It says it recognizes that Sheehan discovered these techniques, but that they are nothing more than fundamentals. It declares that Sheehan is powerless before it, that his end is near, and then unleashes lightning and fire magic together, overwhelming Sheehan. Grass suddenly rushes forward and swings his axe at the demon, but the strike has no effect. The demon retaliates at once, hurling Grass aside and striking him with lightning magic. In the next moment, Sheehan's father attacks the demon from behind. The demon turns calmly and tells him that a human weapon cannot kill it, then strikes him with overwhelming force and slams him into a wall. The demon then faces Sheehan and tells him that he is truly remarkable. It says that even in his current condition, Sheehan is still searching for a way to win, that he has suppressed his fear, and that his eyes show he is ready to keep fighting. It calls this the mark of the lineage of Ligria. The demon offers him a choice, to become its servant, promising great power and long life. In exchange, Sheehan would lose his sense of self and become nothing more than a tool, though the demon assures him that he would grow accustomed to it. Sheehan tries to flee, but the demon catches him instantly, appears before him, and grips his neck. It tells him there is no need to be afraid, that everything will end quickly and without pain. As it reveals its fangs, Sheehan realizes that the demon is also a vampire. He struggles to escape but cannot. The demon sinks its fangs into him and begins to drain his blood. Sheehan's resistance fades, and he tells himself that he has failed, that he could not protect the city, his mother, or his sister. A sudden scream breaks the moment. The demon recoils in pain and releases Sheehan, demanding to know whether he carries fairy protection. It says that tainted blood is spreading through its body. Enraged, the demon gathers its power and strikes Sheehan. But Ravina reaches him in time and pulls him away, asking if he is alright. The demon's fury deepens as it gathers all its remaining power and prepares another attack. Sheehan tells Ravina to raise his hand. He gathers what little magical energy he has left and tries to use it as fuel. He realizes it is not enough and that he does not have time to gather more. Grast attacks again and manages to injure the demon's arm. Sheehan's father follows, striking with his sword and severing the arm completely. Sheehan then releases his remaining magical energy toward it. The demon scoffs, saying it will have no effect, and sends its own magic back at him. Sheehan answers that the demon is the one who is ignorant. The moment the two energies collide, a massive explosion erupts. The demon is engulfed in the blast as its body begins to burn. It screams in agony, asking what is happening as its form starts to collapse. Moments later, the demon vanishes completely. Ravina asks if this means it is over. Sheehan answers that he has no magical energy left and cannot continue, saying that he will probably die. His strength gives out, and he loses his balance. As his vision fades, he thinks that everything is finally over, that life may return to normal, and that he will see his sister again. Then Sheehan collapses and loses consciousness. After some time, Sheehan wakes from a nightmare and finds his mother sitting beside him. She embraces him and tells him that he finally opened his eyes after so long. Soon after, Cole comes in to examine him and says that his body is in good condition, and that there is nothing physically wrong. Sheehan asks how long he was unconscious. Cole tells him that he was asleep for an entire week. Sheehan is taken aback by this. His father enters the room with Grast to check on him. Sheehan tells them not to worry, saying that he is fine. They are visibly relieved. His father explains that he left the village the moment he sensed the specters that day, and that he arrived just in time, even if he was not very helpful. Sheehan tells him that is not true, saying he only managed to defeat the demon because his father cut off its arm. He then asks whether everyone involved in the incident is safe. Cole replies that Git and Ravina sustained only minor injuries, and that Mary and Rose are unharmed. Sheehan feels relieved and asks what happened after he lost consciousness. His father tells him that the situation was severe and that, unfortunately, the number of victims was large. Sheehan lowers his gaze and says that if he had done better, those people might not have died. At that moment, he feels a strange sensation and notices a powerful flow of magical energy coming from within him. He is startled and realizes that his magical capacity has clearly increased. He immediately asks his father to take him to Mary. When they arrive, Sheehan goes straight to his sister. His mother asks him not to overexert himself, but he reassures her and thinks to himself that with this amount of magical energy, he should be able to cure those afflicted by the lethargy disease. He has not proven it yet, but the energy he now possesses is far greater than before. He believes he may be able to save Mary immediately. He He places his hand on her and activates his magic. Xian is surprised when he realizes that even this amount of energy is barely enough. Tension fills the room. Suddenly Mary opens her eyes. Everyone reacts in alarm. Cole tells them to wait, saying it is not over yet. Moments later Mary begins to move her hands and mouth. After a while Xian stops using magic and asks if her energy has returned. Mary slowly moves her hand, grasps Xian's and begins to speak a few simple words. The room fills with quiet sobs as everyone breaks down in relief. Sometime later, Xian visits the clinic and bids farewell to a patient who had been infected with the lethargy disease. He reflects that a week has passed since he cured his sister, and that with the help of Cole and the doctors, they managed to cure all those afflicted. Now that the disease has been eradicated, he decides it is time to learn the truth about who he really is. Xian goes to the mayor's palace, where his father, mother and Grast are already waiting. The mayor tells him that he must have many questions, and that he noticed certain things already. He promises to answer everything. Xian asks who he truly is, explaining that when he became obsessed with magic, his parents supported him without hesitation, and that the mayor also believed him immediately when he spoke of the disease and the specters, even though he never demonstrated magic. He says it felt as though they already knew about it. The mayor tells him that he is from the lineage of Legria. Legria were a people who stood beside humanity 1,000 years ago and fought fiercely against demons. They were known for their red hair and eyes and were said to wield a strange power called magic. Before being sealed, the demons cast a curse on Legria, causing their extinction. The mayor continues that everything changed 12 years ago, when a woman appeared in the capital before the queen, carrying a child. She declared that the child was from the lineage of Legria, the only light capable of saving the world. She said that the child must be raised and protected, and that if he were neglected, humanity would inevitably fall. The mayor explains that the queen did not believe the woman's words. She feared that if the child truly belonged to the lineage of Legria, he might become a danger in the future. For that reason, she turned to her former companions, who became Xian's adoptive father and mother. Xian asks them whether Mary knows the truth. His father answers that they chose not to tell her, because they wanted to raise him as their real son. His mother apologizes quietly for not telling him sooner. Xian tells them that he already knew. He once overheard them talking about it. He adds that even if they are not related by blood, they will always be his parents. His words ease their expressions. Xian then asks why the queen chose them specifically. They explain that they are honorary nobles, unlike hereditary nobles such as the mayor. Because their title is honorary, they have no right to own land, but the mayor allowed them to govern a rural area within his territory. Xian concludes that this was meant to keep him away from people, so that no one would discover his lineage and attempt to exploit him. He adds that this is also why they tried to stop him from using magic at first. His father admits that he did not want to believe Xian truly came from the lineage of Legria. Grast then asks how Xian knew so many things beyond his age. Xian hesitates, briefly wondering whether he should reveal the truth of his past life, but decides against it and answers that he simply read a great deal. He then asks the mayor what he should do next. The mayor replies that he will most likely receive an invitation from the queen. Afterward, Xian goes to see Mary. She greets him, though her speech is still weak. She asks him to hold her hand and tells him that while she was unconscious, she was trapped alone in a dark world. She could not move and was overwhelmed by fear, but throughout that time she could hear his voice, as well as their parents. That was why she kept holding on. The next day, the family returns to their village. They enter their home for the first time in 2 years, exhausted and seeking quiet rest. Later, Xian goes into the forest to test his magic. He reflects that the unusual physical strength Mary showed during training was likely the earliest sign of the lethargy disease. He strikes a tree with his magic and notices that unlike before, he feels no pain. He realizes that magical energy acts like armor, absorbing impact. When he focuses more carefully and strikes again, clear damage appears on the tree. Several days later, an invitation from the queen arrives. Xian prepares to leave and bids farewell to his family, asking his father to look after Mary. Grast tells him that the world is vast and urges him to explore it and return as someone extraordinary. Ravina tells him not to be sad, reminding him that this is only a temporary farewell. Xian answers that his sadness comes from knowing he will not see them for some time. He goes to Mary to say goodbye. She begins to cry and tells him she will feel lonely without him. Xian turns to leave and opens the door, only to find soldiers from Ravina's battalion waiting outside. Their commander tells him that they will escort him to the city, and that it is an honor to accompany someone like him. Xian rides in the carriage with Ravina as his family calls out to him. Mary hands him a gift and says that today is his birthday. It is a necklace chosen by the three of them so that he will not feel lonely even when they are apart. Xian puts it on and thanks Mary and his parents. Mary tells him that with his magical power, he will save many people, and that no matter how difficult things become he should remember them, because they will always stand by his side. Xian lowers his head and begins to cry.